I consider myself very qualified to talk on this subject because I've had some extremely bad luck in my life, and unfortunately, I was really ignorant during the time. This dates all the way down to my childhood. Unfortunately, being in a nurturing environment that catered to what I stand for and who I am as a person hasn't been an easy thing to come across. Growing up gay in Central Texas in early 2000s, it's not that easy. I wasn't like ever physically harassed or put in harm's way a bunch of times, but I did deal with a lot of psychological mistreatment. I didn't really know anything else. So, with that information, as I continued to progress in life, I it took me a while until I was in an environment that was no longer toxic, an environment that truly was neutral. I've been in environments where it was beneficial, but sometimes that's difficult to really digest because it's not you. For example, if you're dating someone, that might alleviate some pressure, but is that your internal work? Not really, right? Like, that's this person making you feel good. So finally, these past few months, I've been in a neutral state where I exist on my own, and I've been really able to see the effects of living a lifestyle in peace. And when I say peace, I don't mean, maybe relax necessarily, but peace in the sense that I dictate my own thoughts, my own decisions. I'm my own adult now, right? I live alone. It gives you a different perspective on your life. And as I sit here and reflect on mine, I realize how insane being in a toxic environment can impact your mental health and your physical health. It can give you all kinds of chronic mental illnesses. It can give you anxiety. It can make you depressed. It can make you overwhelmed. It can burn you out. It can influence you to make decisions that aren't healthy. It's everything. I used to think that as people, we have the strength to persevere our environment. Well, it is true. That is a truth. But personally, I don't know if I could continuously persevere in an environment that is toxic. Could you imagine? I could work myself out of it. I could work my way into a new environment, but to stay in that environment and just thrive and like let it brush off, I just can't imagine, because for me, a lot of the toxic wasn't even from people that I expected it from. It's really easy to convince yourself that we're the type of people that can just push through. It's fine. I don't have to move. Bills are expensive. This is scary. Rent. Whatever. I don't want to work as much. I can't work as much. There's so many valid and invalid excuses as to why you can't remove yourself from a situation. But you guys, I just can't even stress how insanely important it is. I had convinced myself of so many things. I'm not like a perfect person. I have negative characteristics and I work on negative attributes that I hold all the time, right? But because of the environment I was in, I had convinced myself that I was way more messed up than what I actually was. I mean, one of the main things was depression. I was depressed, you guys. Like, I was really sad and I couldn't figure out why. I kept thinking it was me. I kept thinking it was my choices in life. I kept thinking, I just couldn't, honestly, I just kept thinking about myself and all of my own individual decisions that I didn't stop to think, maybe it's the room I'm in. Maybe the environment I'm in is affecting me so much and is weighing down on my spirits so much that I wake up tired. At that time, I was in a lot of relationships that I did not want to be in many different ways. And it wasn't anxiety, because you would wake up and it's like, okay, I'm awake, having to avoid arguing with someone. Maybe you didn't want to see someone. At some point, I lived with a roommate that I didn't even like anymore, and now we didn't even talk to each other the last few weeks. It was incredibly toxic. And then after that, living in a whole different situation, it was just insanely toxic, the environment I was in. And it wasn't until I was out of that environment in an environment that I wasn't happy in necessarily, because this is when I was staying with my best friend. I wasn't like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, I was appreciative of her, but I was definitely, I just lost my home. But I wasn't depressed. I wasn't even in LA anymore, but I wasn't depressed. And that's when I realized, oh my goodness, I'm not depressed. It was my environment. It was weighing down on me that heavy. It's true. It's everything. And I know we feel bad about it sometimes, because it's like you almost have to view yourself in a higher light. But that's just the reality of the situation sometimes. My biggest advice, if you're in a situation where you don't know how to remove these people from your life, let's say it's a friend. You have a close friend, but you just feel that they're impacting you in a negative way, and honestly, you're over it. You would much rather never talk to this person ever again. You could ghost them. I wouldn't recommend that, because for me, that gives me anxiety. If I ghost you, I know I might run into you, and if I still somewhat care about you, then I'd rather not do that. If I completely don't care about you, then oh my gosh, what do I care? I'll probably put my sunglasses on and keep pushing, you know what I mean? Just communicate. We're adults. That was my biggest thing about one of my friend breakups that I went through once upon a time, revolved around that. I felt as though this person just didn't like me anymore. They didn't like all these characteristics about myself, that like I didn't reach out enough, that they would just make me feel really bad because I didn't fit these needs that they needed to be met. Therefore, I don't care about them. And I explained to them, that's not the type of person I am. I'm busy. I have things that I want to get done. I don't want to talk to you. At this current moment while I'm recording this, my family's at a lake with my brother, and they all invited me, and I would love to go to the lake. I would love to be there looking at ducks. I love ducks. But I'm working, I'm busy, I have things to do, and it just is what it is. I don't have time to worry about your personal problems with your boyfriend. That's none of my business, first of all. And I don't care. She didn't like that answer. So, the beef starts. And then next thing you know, you're two adults that are hanging out even though neither of you want to hang out. Why? Just communicate. Even through the falling out, all I did was send them a message saying, hey, we're done. We're not friends anymore. Please stop talking about me and have a good life. Bye. It's that simple. Not everything has to be super dramatic and blown out of proportion. I think because we hold a lot of resentment, whenever you realize you're in a toxic environment, a lot of things hit you at the same time. All of a sudden, you're connecting all these dots, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's why they did this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And I let that, and then you get mad, but it's too late. The decisions have already been made. You've already done all these things. What are you going to do, At that point, it just is what it is. You just make a choice from then on, we feel a lot of resentment because it's like, dang, how could you do that to me? Well, I was unaware, but why? I think sometimes, sure, maybe it's necessary, but why? Just keep it pushing. Now, it gives me anxiety thinking about leaving this space because I've been in such a toxic environment for so long. Now that I finally have a piece of calmness and just beauty, I love my home. However, unfortunately, I gotta keep it pushing and I gotta move. I do really stress to people the importance of living alone. I know it is a great luxury. I know it's not that easy, but it's a lot easier than you guys think. You just have to work. I don't know. Maybe I'm just super privileged, but I don't come from money, so if I can figure it out, I'm pretty sure it's not that, ambitious. Especially because a lot of my finances right now come from a traditional job. I did work in the industry, and I got a lot of my paychecks from the industry. A lot of what I've built now has been just from a traditional job. So when people try to tell me that I'm privileged, yes, I am. However, I made myself privileged. You know what I mean? Nobody made it for me. So With that being said, living alone is the greatest tool I've ever been given in my life. It forces you to either sink in yourself and never acknowledge a lot of emotions and, just pretend they don't exist, or you can't get away. At least for myself, I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't play a lot of games. Like, I tend to just exist in my space with music. That's why a vibe is really important to me. I know you'll always hear me say that I love a good vibe, but I do. I love a good vibe because I like to exist. And I feel like if you're existing and if it's not in a vibe, then what are you just existing in a space when you can be existing in a vibe? You know what I mean? Like, I want to thrive in the vibe, and that is what I do. You can't do that in a toxic environment. Everything is depressing. You don't even see the colors of things. I remember the first time I was driving through to Santa Monica in Los Angeles. I was driving through I don't know what the freeway names, but the one that swerves on the way to Santa Monica. And I remember looking up the hills, and all of a sudden, things had color. And I just bawled because I had been living in a toxic environment for so long that I was looking at the world in a much dimmer light. And it wasn't until that moment that, I don't know what happened in my brain, I saw things a little brighter. And it was such a unreal realization. And it's something I definitely carry with me, because now I know that if plans start to look dim, I'm not getting well again. I pay attention to those things now. How does the sky look? Are colors vibrant? Do I see these things? Because I didn't realize that for a period I wasn't seeing these things. Living alone helped a ton with that, because now I feel emotions more intensely. I've taken so much time to create a routine that nurtures me and wakes me up. I've taken time to figure out how to put myself to sleep. I've really invested time into myself, because we tend to not. We tend to be dating someone, or we tend to want to be dating someone. Our mind tends to be ready to do something, and usually it's not your own self-care. I've been very lucky to be in a position where a lot of that time has been invested into myself, and you guys, I promise you, it is such an amazing sensation that I just want everyone to feel, because it's just great to know, like, dang, I did this myself, and now I'm journaling, and I'm awake, and I'm having my coffee, and I'm looking at my plans. There's so many moments of happiness that I didn't know existed. I mean, as I film this, I'm looking at the light coming through my balcony, and I'm looking at my plants, and it's cool because it's pretty, and I not only bought that, I designed it. I moved it around, I decorated it, like I DIY'd a little bit. I love it, and it feels nice, and it really is such a inspiring thing to exist in, because you're doing it, you're existing, you're financing yourself, you can buy things. A lot of the insecurities that I need a man, or I can't do it alone, or I'm broken, they start to go away, because that doesn't mean you're healed and you're super fine. That just means that even through your darkest days, you will get your ass up, and you will go to work and sustain yourself, period. Or you will find a way to nurture your mental health whilst not falling short on rent. I used to think that was like the worst thing in the world, but now I'm like, this is just life, baby. I'm just an adult. If I'm gonna do this, I gotta do it right, I gotta do it hard. The last thing I really want to focus on is the emotional vulnerability that you have with yourself. I am a very dramatic person, but when I was living alone, oh my goodness, I feel like I almost was purposefully cry harder, or like thrashing my body around harder, because now I could really cry and bang on the bed, and you know what I mean? Like, I could express those visceral emotions without any judgment or without any fear, because I live alone. Nobody's going to interrupt me. Nobody's going to make me feel less than. If I want to wake up and bawl and just like let it get it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not affecting anyone, I'm just affecting myself. Because that's something that I would hold a lot of guilt with myself. Whenever your partner would say things like, I don't like seeing you this way. It's like, fuck. Not only are you having a bad day now, but now you're affecting someone else's day. And for me, that makes me even worse because I'm like, damn it. I feel like Dobby from Harry Potter when he does something wrong. He's just like, stupid, stupid, stupid. Even though it's not, but that's just, that's where my mindset is at that time. But when you're alone, I don't affect anyone. I live with my brother now, but that's different because that's my brother. Like, it's not a roommate who I have to be kind and courteous to. This is my brother. If he wakes up and I'm like, I'm not in the fucking mood, please don't talk to me. He's not gonna sit there like, my brother doesn't want to talk to me. He's just gonna be like, whatever, I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like, he's just gonna go do his own thing. He don't care. And that's nice. It's nice to feel that way, to just be like, I don't want to talk to anyone. Leave me alone. I just want to go sit outside and stare at the trees, and you can. And it feels nice. It's such a feeling of accomplishment that I really want everyone listening to this to feel. In the end, living alone made me realize that I would rather live in a tiny apartment than be in a toxic environment again. I understand that although I am powerful and great and my environment does not define me, living in something wears away at you. Just the simple fact that you have to exert extra energy to motivate yourself because you're not happy in your environment. I mean, just personally, just get out of that situation and do your best to not be in that situation. I've found that that's living alone. Whatever helps for you and whatever is your tool, please let me know. I would love to know what some of you guys do to avoid being in a toxic environment if living alone isn't an option. It made me understand that I don't want to date anyone. I was in a relationship, I think in total, it was about 8 years. An unhealthy partner, and not even to say unhealthy, because all of my relationships at one point were incredibly healthy. But even at the healthiest, I was distracted. Even at the healthiest of my relationship, mentally, I was not doing good. I was still distracting myself. That's the whole point. Like, even through the positives, I wasn't learning how to cope and how to deal with myself. So now that I'm alone, it feels powerful to know that whatever guy comes my way has to actually be unique and can't just be an average person anymore. I just can't, because that person has to fit my standard, and that doesn't mean money and success. That just means that they are unique because they're mine and mine is mine, therefore unique. Remember, I'm still playing with these episodes and how I structure them. So if you have any suggestions, if you have any comments, any notes, please let me know at theRamonGarcia@gmail.com. I'm definitely not going to be set in stone anytime soon. But with that, thank you for listening. I appreciate your support so much. Have an amazing rest of your day.